You open your kitchen cupboard and reach for that familiar bag of rice. It's been there for weeks, maybe months. You've cooked it 100 times, fed it to your children, served it to your elderly parents. You never questioned it. Why would you? It's just rice. But what if I told you that sitting inside that innocent-looking package is a slow-acting poison that's been accumulating in your body, meal after meal, year after year? What if the brands you trust, the ones with the smiling families on the packaging and the words "natural" and "pure" printed in green letters, have been quietly selling you something far more dangerous than you ever imagined? Rice is supposed to be one of the safest foods on Earth. For thousands of years, it fed entire civilizations. It was grown in clean water, harvested by hand, stored in simple containers. Your grandmother knew exactly where her rice came from. She could see the fields. She knew the farmers. But today, in modern Britain, rice has become something else entirely. It's been industrialized, chemically treated, mass-produced in contaminated regions, and shipped across oceans in conditions that would horrify you. And the worst part, the companies selling it to you know exactly what's inside. They've seen the lab reports, they've read the studies, and they've made a calculated decision that their profit margins matter more than your family's health. Let me take you back for a moment. Imagine a time before supermarket aisles, before plastic packaging, before global supply chains. Rice was sacred. It was pure. It came from the earth and went straight to your table. There was no question about what you were eating because there was nothing to hide. But somewhere along the way, we handed over control. We stopped asking questions. We trusted the big brands, the familiar logos, the official sounding certifications. And that trust is exactly what they've been exploiting. Because while you were busy living your life, raising your family, working your job, an entire industry quietly transformed rice from a wholesome staple into a vehicle for heavy metals, pesticides, and chemical residues that your body was never designed to process. The problem isn't just one bad brand or one contaminated batch. The problem is systemic. It's the entire way rice is grown, processed, and sold in the United Kingdom today. And until you understand how deep this goes, you'll keep buying the same poison products week after week, thinking you're making a safe choice. Let's start with the brand that sits on more kitchen shelves than almost any other. You've seen it 1,000 times. The red packaging, the friendly font, the promise of quality. But behind that marketing, there's a disturbing reality. This brand sources much of its rice from regions known for severe arsenic contamination in soil and water. Arsenic, a naturally occurring element, concentrates in rice more than any other grain because of how rice is grown in flooded fields. But this brand doesn't talk about that. Instead, they show you images of happy families and healthy meals. They use words like trusted and traditional. What they don't tell you is that independent lab tests have found arsenic levels in their white rice that exceed what's considered safe for regular consumption. And here's the truly sinister part. Arsenic doesn't just pass through your system. It accumulates. Every bowl of rice adds to your total body burden. Over years, this can lead to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and multiple forms of cancer. But this brand continues to prioritize shelf space and profit margins over transparency, because admitting the truth would cost them millions in lost sales. Then there's the brand that markets itself as premium, as somehow better than the rest. You've paid extra for it, thinking you were protecting your family. The packaging is elegant. The rice looks pristine. They talk about their rigorous quality standards and their commitment to excellence. But when consumer advocacy groups tested their products, they found something shocking. Not just arsenic, but detectable levels of cadmium, another toxic heavy metal linked to kidney damage and bone disease. How does cadmium get into rice? Through contaminated irrigation water and polluted soil in industrial farming regions. This premium brand knows exactly where they source from. They have the resources to test every batch. But testing costs money, and switching to cleaner sources would cut into their profit margins. So instead, they invest in marketing, in beautiful photography, in convincing you that expensive means safe. And you believed them. You fed that rice to your children, thinking you were giving them the best. The third brand on our list is the one that appears in nearly every budget-conscious household. It's cheap, it's convenient, it's always in stock, and it's possibly the most dangerous of all. This brand engages in what industry insiders call origin blending. NG. They mix rice from multiple countries, often including regions with minimal food safety oversight, to create the lowest possible cost per kilogram. The result is a product that can contain not just heavy metals, but pesticide residues that have been banned in the UK for decades. When tested, samples of this brand showed traces of chemicals linked to hormone disruption, reproductive problems, and developmental delays in children. But here's what makes this even more disturbing. Because they blend sources, they can avoid transparency. There's no single origin to point to, no single farm to hold accountable. It's a deliberate strategy designed to obscure the truth. And while you're saving a pound or two at the checkout, your family is consuming a cocktail of contaminants that will cost far more in health consequences down the line. Just last year, something happened that should have made headlines across the country, but it was buried in the back pages and forgotten within days. A major rice recall affecting over 200,000 packages sold in UK supermarkets. The reason? Unacceptable levels of aflatoxins, toxic compounds produced by mold that grows on improperly stored grains. Aflatoxins are among the most potent carcinogens known to science. They attack the liver, suppress the immune system, and in children, they can cause stunted growth and cognitive impairment. But the recall was quiet. No major news coverage, no public outcry, just a small notice on a regulatory website that most people never saw. And here's the terrifying question. How much contaminated rice had already been consumed before the recall happened? How many families had already fed it to their children? And how many other batches are sitting in warehouses and on shelves right now, just waiting to be discovered? The fourth brand likes to position itself as the healthy choice. You've seen their marketing: whole grain, brown rice, packed with nutrients, good for your heart. And technically, they're not lying. Brown rice does contain more nutrients than white rice, but it also contains more arsenic. Because arsenic concentrates in the outer bran layer, the very part that makes brown rice healthy, you're actually consuming significantly higher levels of this toxic metal with every serving. This brand knows this. The research is clear and public, but they've made a calculation. Health-conscious consumers will pay premium prices for brown rice, and as long as they can use words like natural and nutritious, most people won't dig deeper. They won't read the studies showing that regular consumption of brown rice can lead to arsenic levels in the body that rival those of people exposed through contaminated drinking water. They won't think about the fact that they're trading one benefit for a potentially devastating risk. And here's something that should make your stomach turn. Researchers conducted an experiment where they left samples of highly processed, chemically treated rice outside for birds. Common pigeons and sparrows, creatures that will eat almost anything, approached the rice, pecked at it once or twice, and then walked away. They refused to eat it. Think about that. Birds, operating on pure instinct, rejected what millions of British families consume every single day. What do they sense that we've been trained to ignore? The fifth brand is perhaps the most insidious because it targets the most vulnerable. It's marketed specifically for babies and young children. The packaging shows smiling infants. The labels promise specially prepared for little ones and gentle and pure. Parents buy it thinking they're giving their children the safest possible start. But when independent testing was conducted on infant rice products, the results were horrifying. Some samples contained arsenic levels that, if found in drinking water, would trigger immediate government intervention. But because it's food, because it's sold in a supermarket with official-looking certifications, parents assume it's been thoroughly tested and approved. The reality is that testing is sporadic, standards are inadequate, and enforcement is weak. This brand, like all the others, operates in a regulatory gray zone where profits are protected and families are left exposed. But let's talk about one more, a bonus entry that deserves your attention. There's a brand that's been gaining popularity in UK supermarkets over the last few years. It positions itself as exotic, authentic, imported directly from Asia. The marketing emphasizes tradition and heritage, and consumers wanting to experience authentic flavors have embraced it enthusiastically. But here's what they don't advertise. This rice comes from regions where industrial pollution has contaminated water sources for decades, where heavy metal levels in soil exceed safety standards by orders of magnitude, where farmers have no choice but to grow crops in poisoned earth because it's the only land they have. Because import standards focus primarily on visible contamination and basic safety tests. This rice enters the country and ends up in your home with minimal scrutiny. The brand profits from the exotic appeal while you and your family bear the health risks. This isn't just about 5 or 6 bad brands. This is about an entire system that has failed you. It's about regulatory agencies that are underfunded and overwhelmed. It's about supermarkets that prioritize supplier relationships and profit margins over consumer safety. It's about a food industry that has become so globalized, so industrialized, so focused on efficiency and cost-cutting that the basic question of whether food is safe has become secondary. We've reached a point where the rice on your shelf, the rice you trust because it's familiar and convenient, may be slowly poisoning your family. And the companies selling it are counting on you not to notice until it's too late. But here's the thing, you have more power than you realize. Knowledge is the first step, and now you have it. You know what's in these products. You know how the industry operates. You know the tricks they use to hide the truth. And armed with that knowledge, you can make different choices. You can seek out brands that actually test for heavy metals and publish results. You can choose organic rice from regions with cleaner soil and water. You can reduce your overall rice consumption and diversify your grains. You can cook rice using methods that reduce arsenic content, like rinsing thoroughly and cooking in excess water that you drain away. These aren't perfect solutions, but they're steps in the right direction. More importantly, you can demand better. You can pressure supermarkets to require transparency from suppliers. You can support regulatory changes that protect families instead of corporations. You can share this information with others because every person who understands the problem is one more voice demanding change. The system is designed to keep you ignorant, compliant, and consuming. But you don't have to play along anymore. You can choose awareness. You can choose caution. You can choose to put your family's health above corporate profits. And that choice, multiplied across thousands of families, has the power to transform an entire industry. The rice you eat tomorrow doesn't have to be the same as the rice you ate yesterday. You just have to decide that you and your family deserve better.